The public hold the hearing.
Yeah.
The actual city. Yeah, you can make the decision. Rearrange that around.
Sorry?
JD was talking about possibly switching.
Yeah.
The agenda items. For sure.
One's gonna go long.
No.
Okay.
Good to go.
All right, welcome everybody. We'll open the meeting at 6 o'clock on the dot. The first item on the agenda is to hold a public hearing for the planning board to consider extending the solar moratorium. We don't have a lot of people here tonight, but maybe we could get an update from the planning board on the status and propose next steps. And then we can open it up for any additional public comment.
Sure. Do you want to field it, or? I guess I can, because I'm the chair. Is it okay if I remain seated?
Of course.
Good. So, and apologies, it's taken so long. It's taken us a bit to get our legs under us. I bet in total, probably 6 or 8 hours on the phone with representatives of Maine Municipal's legal team, getting guidance on the process, and dealing with other matters that were, brand new to me as someone who had never dealt with that stuff through the planning board. But we've laid out a plan, and we already have started with the goal of, and I ran this entire thing past the folks at Maine Municipal, and they gave us a thumbs up. They said that is a perfect way to go about it. And the plan is that we are sort of as a group individually, but all the members of the planning board are reading through a slew of other solar ordinances that in towns that range from the size of Monson all the way up to like the city of Portland. And they also range from, a single page to 30 pages long. And so there's a wide array of different types and approaches. And so the goal for the next meeting is we're coming and identifying what subsections we want in there. And so some, like the 1-page ordinance will have like 1 or 2 subsections. The 30-page ordinances will have like 30 or 40 subsections that deal with everything from signage to setbacks to all that. And so we're going to identify what we think are the priorities, essentially creating a roadmap of what needs to happen, and then breaking those into small pieces with individual planning board members taking 1 or 2 of those subsections, reading in more detail through some other local solar ordinances to get an idea of what seems to work, and sort of fill in some draft language, bring it back, put it in front of the group, discuss, make edits, come up with what we feel is an appropriate, language for each of those subsections. And that, at that point, I think the plan is probably to run it past Zach, the town lawyer. The folks at Maine Municipal have also said they are willing to, they can't suggest language, but they can help us read through it, particularly when it comes to just making sure that it doesn't run afoul of other ordinances or create conflicts within our land use ordinance. And the hope is to try to set that up in the next, once we get back from the holidays, to try to set up either by or every other week or every week for the months of January and February, and just knock it out. Now that we have a handle on what the process looks like, what that workload looks like, I think we can sort of set up that sort of series of task solar ordinance development meetings and really focus solely on that. It'll be good practice. We've also discussed some other potential ordinances that have come up, things like short-term rentals is a good example. It's not an issue, but it may become an issue, and so getting out in front of it seems like a reasonable approach. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's the sort of game plan moving forward. We've all read through a bunch of the ordinances. We're now starting to take those, and it was the absolute recommendation of the folks at Maine Municipal that we don't just take another town, cut and paste the town of Monson's name over it. We should really go through it and look at what the needs of the town are, what we think is a reasonable balance between, supporting development, but also acknowledging, we don't want the entire town of Monson to be covered in solar panels, right? And so finding that balance, and then obviously at that point it goes to the town, and people get to read it and make up their own minds and vote it up or down.
So I think the goal, in short, is to have that draft looking for approval in February, like we spoke about at the last meeting. It is not, our next meeting is Tuesday.
Yep.
Tuesday the 12th. That's right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And at that point, setting a schedule that allows us to do that, and that goes back to whether it's meeting weekly or every other week, but having a definite end goal of February so that hopefully that will be timely enough to allow it to move in a timely enough manner that it won't negatively impact plans for spring, I think.
And we're not going in blind. We've already dug through and looked at sort of the broad strokes and broad themes of what, there's the minutia, like little things. A good example is like what type of signage is required, what type of fencing might be required. But there's also bigger issues of like what, size restrictions, size definitions, how it relates to different area or zones within our community. And so we've already had several conversations about those broader issues, and I think we have a pretty good consensus on a direction. So now it's just filling in the language.
Great. Any additional comment from members of the public? All right, then maybe we'll hold our questions and stuff for the new business section, if that works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then seeing no additional comments, we'll close the public hearing at 6:06. I should ask, Marty, is there anybody online?
Sandra.
Sandra, do you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Nope.
No, okay, thanks. All right, then we'll open our regular select board meeting at 6:06. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The first item is to discuss and consider extending the solar moratorium. If the select board determines that the need for land use regulations to govern solar development in the town still exists, and that the planning board is making progress in developing such regulations, the select board may vote to extend the solar development moratorium for up to another 180-day period. So I'll just start. I mean, it sounds like the process is underway. The planning board has been working in the meantime, and then it makes sense to extend the moratorium. I think the question on my mind is just about the specific number of days. And if Bill did some math earlier, and if it matches with what you're just saying, we're looking at something like 120 days, which would get us to April 1st town meeting date, right?
You need to have the ordinance enacted, if you extended 120 days, enacted by April 1st. So working that backwards, you need town meeting, you need to schedule the town meeting with warrant for that. And I think have a hearing on prior to doing that. So essentially a month.
Right, so if your work was done at the end of February, then we would have March to do our work and get it in front of the town before April 1st.
Seems reasonable.
Was that?
Seems reasonable.
So I guess the only question I have is, and this, we'll probably talk about with the fire is ensuring that the town has a set aside information gathering piece of it. Is there going to be like an opportunity to just like not, it shouldn't be like, if it goes to the town and if there's a town vote, is there opportunity beforehand to have a question and answer? Because I don't think the town vote should be the opportunity for the question and answer session. So that's the only.
I think we have to follow that sort of hearing, which is public comment,
Yeah.
and then like the 30, there's a window there where we have to wait before there's a vote. I think it's the same as when we made changes to the ordinance last time, or if we were to, yeah, I think, that's my understanding.
And we did get some guidance from Maine Municipal that when we're actually drafting the language, we could involve people that are not part of the planning board in that process. Our desire to be expedient with the process at this point and try to get it done was to get it done. And then if we, I would assume there would be opportunity potentially in March after the draft is done, or late February, early March, to hold some type of a public comment where people could view, we publish the draft, ask people to give feedback so that we could make some adjustments to it if there's some concerns. Aside from that, I mean, I have had some people give me their thoughts, some different people around town that know that we're drafting one, but nothing official. And so I think we're open to that.
Yeah, and also honestly, if there are people that are interested who aren't on the planning board, and we could potentially sort of post this or advertise this, we can essentially create, instead of meeting as a planning board for the months of January and February, we could create a subcommittee that would have the members of the planning board and anyone else that wants to be part of that planning committee. I think that would be both legal and excellent. I think if our goal, what we don't want to do is to set a goal of trying to build a committee, because that's going to take us a couple months. Right? But anyone that is interested, I think, would be more than welcome to be part of that process. We've also got approval, not approval, but the green light from Maine Municipal and our lawyer that alternates, because it's not a voting situation, are more than welcome to take an equal share of the workload. And so they can act as sort of full members in that context as well, to get, many hands kind of make light work then.
Cool. Anything from you, Sue?
No.
All right, then in that case, I'll make a motion that we extend the solar moratorium for 120 additional days.
120?
Yeah. Second. Any additional discussion? All in favor? All right, 3-0. All right, the next item on the agenda is to consider sending the following warrant to a special town meeting. Now, I think I'm supposed to read the warrant, but I could also entertain a motion to dispense of the reading of the warrant.
I'll make the motion to dispense reading the warrant.
All right, all in favor? 3-0, okay. So at the last select board meeting, we had a discussion around the request from the fire department to obtain a new truck. And then since then, the board's been presented with the information that makes up the language of the warrant, and I understand there have been some additional discussions as well. So maybe we'll just start with a kind of update on where these discussions stand, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, I think as the negotiations for the fire truck have occurred since this, the price point has been kind of surprising, and then you kind of look forward to, outcomes of a town meeting. And so we want to make sure that this is in the right path for the town and making sure that that's productive and informative. I'm not sure that the town input's there. And so I had a couple discussions with the town manager and the chief, and, just gonna open up to you and kind of talk to you about, what we had talked about. So, if you wanna start.
The truck's cost is a bit much. And it's gonna hurt other areas of this town financially. So we had a discussion of why you guys going used. And we have other agendas, same with other, town has other agendas, and it's gonna really put a hold back on everything. Also allow us to build up our capital reserve funds, so we can purchase something else future-wise. Big thing is, taxpayers going out, you know, the list of things. The truck's not gonna fit in the building, which you guys all know. And then we'd have to take over a bay downstairs. A year from now, we'll get our tanker back from Dover, where are we gonna put that? So realistically, you know, we need to address public works, you know, maybe something bigger for them. Can't do that if we wipe out all funds. So there's just an endless list of all this stuff and, you know, used truck would be the way to go. You know, the only problem is, like we said, that even the used trucks on the market are gone within weeks, 2 weeks, days. You know, they sell fast. So it wouldn't be with, you know, we can't spec out anything at this moment. We can give, you know, if we can find out what price range that we can be approved in, then we can go from that point. But we have to get that approved and have the money in the account so we can act fast on it. So, you know, my recommendation is cancel this warrant and move forward with a used truck. And it's better for the long term,
Presumably the lead time for a used truck is
immediately.
right, so
Right,
we have more
and that's the
flexibility
big
there.
thing, you know, we were just on a Dover fire call, big structures, fire in Dover, and it took the truck 5 minutes to go into gear, 5 minutes to build air. And then it took us probably almost as long just to get the truck into gear. Yeah, if that was one of our, a town in here, you know, fire in here, we'd have been hurt bad. So
Add on the time that it takes. for-
we don't think that the truck's gonna last 2 years to get the new truck anyways. So that's gonna put us into another thing. If we sign a lease for the new truck, this one breaks, what do? You're gonna be out even more money. It's not what's best, you know, and we got talking that, you know, a $300,000 range, you know, would get us, probably a truck to get us 10 years. And if you did this new truck at $900,000 pretty much for 30 years, that's 300,000 every 10 years. So if we could stay in that, it'll give us time to pay off 451, get rid of all the other bonds and everything this town has got going on, you know, build up these other areas, plus be able to get 10 years capital reserve, because we're gonna have other trucks that we're gonna need to replace as well. It's long-term smart, so. Unfortunately, we all love the new truck, but the town just doesn't have capacity to purchase it, so.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, you know, certainly the price point is, but the need is there. I think the other feedback I was getting from the town's process and buy-in, and, you know, time is, I think, of the essence. So my thought is to punt on the warrant, but immediately get into a committee with members of the fire department, member of the select board, and a member of the town, and just move expeditiously towards a solution. And, you know, how that looks like, you know, hopefully, you know, if we do that in December at the select board, in January, I would hope that we would have a recommendation for a price point or some sort of flexibility that if something ad hoc came up, that we could bounce on it. There's a lot of work to be done too in the meantime, as far as timing needs.
The biggest thing is getting approved for that,
For the month.
because we can have the truck tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
That's not a problem, but my biggest fear is, as some of you guys saw the kitty litter sitting in the driveway, we had a truck sitting outside and the antifreeze cooler let go.
Yeah, so it's just, all that comes down to
It's gonna break.
authorities and
It's
stuff
the
like that, so
code.
we can act quickly if that happens. And
And we asked that the three of us here be part of that committee, because.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, if we can, I guess what we could do today is authorize the town manager to draft a charter for a special committee. And then we can discuss that, including the makeup of that committee at the next meeting in 2 weeks, I guess.
yes, please do.
And, yeah, in line with what you said, and Ryan, what you said is, you know, the timing here actually taking a breath on this allows us to slot this conversation in with all the other conversations that are happening about the needs of the fire department and also the broader needs of the town. It's not too long until we're gonna start the budgeting process for the next year. And so having a committee that's focused on this aspect of things, I think gives you a head start as we go into the budgeting process, so we can make sure that all of these needs and priorities dovetail together. And we're not making these decisions kind of in isolation from everything else. There's been a lot of work done by the department this year on articulating the capital plan and the operational needs and so on and so forth. And so we have a good head start here going into this process to make sure that the resourcing of the department is in line with the kind of articulated plan of the department. So
We just have to understand our fear right now because of the cold, where we do a lot more mutual aid now, because we set it over for 8.5 hours with this truck. It's gonna break.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to baby that thing, and I just hate to see something that costs us $30,000.
sure.
That's the only thing we ask is if we can just try to speed as long as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, we're in that pinch.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So, like, the truck doesn't seem like someone else would buy it if we were
You
trying
can
to.
sell it,
Really?
Mhm.
Okay.
you can sell it.
So that would be a consideration, how much you would get.
We
for
were
that.
told it was scrap value, so you're not gonna get much for it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean,
parts.
and even the used truck, what we would do if the tires were not in that good of shape on the used truck, we have brand new tires on this engine, we would take those off and swap them.
Mm.
Anything that we can take off this truck to make that truck better, we will.
Yeah, that's why I think that the committee will answer all the questions, so, and.
And I think you were in here, Sue, 2 nights ago, Tuesday night?
Yeah, yeah,
You must have heard the truck running and running and running and
I
running.
did, yeah,
And that
yeah.
was just to build the air pressure. And
Yeah.
then it took us longer than that just to get it in gear. And then when we had it outside, it broke. We spent till 11 o'clock at night trying to fix it. I almost had to have a big heavy wrecker come and pick it up and bring it to Bangor. Because it was literally stuck in the driveway. We finally got it fixed, and it took us forever to start the truck because of the cold. And then it would not go into gear. And we had to crank the heat up. We have to leave the heat on unpleasantly hot in there to keep the transmission with the sensors, because it will not go into gear in the cold. So,
Understood. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, what are you thinking timelines for a committee and?
I'd like to, like, in 2 weeks, have the charter approved, and then, maybe we can get in the meet, like, once we get some names identified, like, have a special meeting to approve those names and then move forward. So, yeah. And then, the only other thing would be if it has to go to town meeting, that's 2 weeks. So within that, the information needs to get to the town, because you want the town to be informed about why we're moving in a certain direction, and that was kind of the feedback that I got, so. I would say act as judiciously as possible, but not too quick where we're not missing any process for this.
But yeah, we start with the charter.
Yeah.
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 All right. Do we know if we need to vote on that, or we just would vote when we actually set up the committee?
Probably. This is my first
Okay.
step at this with you,
Yeah,
so I think probably taking action on December 4th.
If there's a way to skip them, if we can get together and skip a step and not have to wait for the
We'll
14th.
figure that, yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
I think,
That would be good.
yeah, that would be good.
and like I said, the 3 of us here would be the only 3 from the fire department.
There's 4 of you.
Yeah.
No, there's like three.
Yeah.
But the other question I have for you, Todd, is how soon do you guys think that you guys will have a dollar amount that we can shoot for?
Just so we can start looking around and, you know, maybe if we can lock something in with somebody and they can hold it, and it's a possibility. You know, is it in a month, is it 2 months, is it, you know?
I would say, considering the holidays think an amount maybe in January, but I don't know, because you'd still want town input for that, and the town would have to approve that.
Right, you still have to have a
Yeah, you
special
still have to
town
go
meeting.
through the, I mean, the committee's gonna have to go through its own process of assessing the needs and pricing out different options, so on and so forth. And then that would determine the price point that you're looking for approval from the town on. So I mean, realistically, you're talking about like February, March by the time there's any sort of approval for anything.
But once the approval, hopefully there's an asset here, early spring.
And it's obviously there's other things we gotta worry about, like someone that's gotta get flown out there to wherever the truck is to inspect the truck with the truck, make sure the truck's what we need is suitable.
Yeah.
As well as getting the truck back, how to transport it back.
Part of the charter will probably be to assign a certain funding line to it, or not,
No, it would just be it would make recommendation about what the town should do.
Okay.
All right, I guess my question was if we need to vote to authorize you to draft the charter, or if you can just, I guess
Why don't you do it?
Okay.
Just be safe, okay?
Why don't you do it?
Yeah, I'll move to draft a charter for the committee to purchase a fire truck.
Second.
I guess my question is whether we want this to be, we have to put some boundaries on here. If you want to be specifically about assessing the needs of a lead engine, then we should say that. If we want it to have any broader scope, then we should say that.
I think in this instance, be specific about a lead engine, but,
You can also amend the charter later.
yeah, okay, because it could be a blueprint for every other purchase that occurs, and then we'll be into the budget process, and we can be flexible at that point, but. Yeah.
But the immediate need is the lead
Yes.
engine, so
Yep.
we can focus on that.
Yep.
So, a committee to assess, sorry, what, I don't want to put words
I
in.
don't know, we better with words. We need to consider the purchase of a lead fire engine for the town of Monson.
Second again?
All in favor? 3-0. Bill, do you know, did Zach mention if we have to take action on the specific warrant, or if no action is fine?
It'll die for lack of action.
Maybe for
Again, if you
purposes
want to,
of minutes and so on, because we set a date at the last meeting, but we didn't take any action on the warrant itself. So I don't know, maybe we can confirm this in retrospect, but maybe we take a vote to cancel the
That's what I
town
was
meeting.
thinking, yeah.
And if we need to do anything afterwards because we didn't do it the right way, then we can do that. But I'll move that we cancel the special town meeting that had previously been scheduled for December 14, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 3-0. All right, that concludes
That
our
was it.
agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Second.
Dave seconds, all in favor? All right, we are adjourned at 6:28.
Don't you still have the 10,000?
That's not on.
No.
No, yeah.
yeah, two of that, any of the finance stuff, December.
No,
Is that-
10,000 out of capital reserve?